Just in time to catch the 10-year anniversary of the franchise, Capcom releases Dead Rising 4 on Xbox One and Windows 10 PC. It was unveiled during the Microsoft press conference at E3 2016, and they also announced it would eventually join the cross-buy system library between Xbox One and Windows 10. Oh wait, never mind. The most apparent thing, besides the return of Frank West, is the Christmas theme. You're back in Willamette, Colorado after 16 years in the middle of a new outbreak that started during the holiday season. Capcom announced the game's release date to December 6, 2016, just in time for Christmas. When this game was first revealed, I was pretty optimistic about the announcement, even after how disappointed I was with Dead Rising 3. The game having a big shopping mall as its central location was already a step in the right direction. Some people didn't like that the game looked more outlandish and ridiculous. I personally didn't mind that, since that's the direction the series has been going since Dead Rising 2. An electrifying go-kart is just about as believable as a wheelchair blender, if you ask me. And Frank is back. A questionable action, but I couldn't help but be excited. He's a very unconventional character for an over-the-top zombie slaying series in terms of appearance and personality. He's a boorish and determined person. He didn't make quips or crack jokes every 6 seconds in order to be appealing to fans when it came to the first title. That's what made him special. He wasn't like other video game characters. He didn't need to be suave or even that charismatic to be adored by fans. This would be the first time Frank would return for a full-fledged canonical game. So let the optimism sink in for this holiday season. In the time between the announcement and the release date, we would be shown more gameplay as well as the main developers in Capcom Vancouver and their thoughts on the Dead Rising series. This was something worth looking into considering some of the main developers haven't worked on a Dead Rising game before this. These gave fans dozens of previews and interviews hyping up the launch of Dead Rising 4. This will be a continuation of my Dead Rising retrospective series and make some callbacks to it. If you're not very familiar with the previous entries, check it out. I talk about what made the first game an amazing gem in gaming history, how the sequel made a valiant effort to step up the series, and how misled the third game was in becoming an installation. In this video, we're going to make a deep analysis of Dead Rising 4 by dissecting the gameplay, the mechanics, and story. We will also look into the development of the game through both written and recorded interviews. Let's start by looking into the gameplay to see what's in store for us.
You killed him?
What? No, he's just sleeping.
Taking control of Frank West, you return to Willamette, Colorado of Dead Rising 1 fame. Your playground is, once again, a big-ass, multi-leveled mall, but this time it's surrounded by a ritzy, snow-covered Middle America town being occupied by a militarized group known as Obscurus. More on them later. You can still mow down zombos with whatever you can get your hands on. Kind of. Regarding combat, you can combine weapons with particular elements to create powerful pieces of destruction, many which sport winter or Christmas themes. So, combo weapons were introduced in Dead Rising 2. Dead Rising 3 introduced the concept of combining vehicles together. While both of them coming back is a given, there should be a new means of upping the ante for this installment, right? What is there left to combine? Yourself! Scattered across the town are these exosuits, a temporary suit you can attain that packs a real punch to your fighting ability. With this suit, you run faster, hit harder, and use oversized weapons that are even more powerful. You can also attach particular machines to yourself for even more firepower, from slushy machines to arcade cabinets. Zombies have also been revamped for this new entry. Due to a different strain of the virus, they have a few new tricks up their sleeves. There's regular zombies, which act as expected. We can call them common. There's fresh zombies, which are people that just became infected. They are much faster than the common zombies and can leap at you from short distances. There's also Evo zombies, which are a special type that can take a lot more damage, deflect some of your attacks, enrage zombies in their proximity, and jump around all over the place in order to annoy you. Zombies aren't the only threat. Throughout your adventure, other threats will be crazed survivors and soldiers. Besides re-deading the undead, you can also take pictures again. You take photos during particular scenes in order to collect information for a story Frank is trying to uncover. This is the first time for the series in which the camera was actually used by the player to progress in the campaign. The camera also has night vision to help you see in the dark for certain scenarios, and a spectrum analyzer to help you find more clues and secrets. There are also collectibles throughout the game, such as newspapers, audio logs, and special keys for lockers, some that store combo blueprints. No more PP stickers though. When you're not solving the great new Willamette mystery, you can do side objectives that involve helping out survivors, finding collectibles that grant you lore relating to the story or the world itself, and fighting optional bosses dubbed Maniacs. Maniacs, huh? Not psychopaths? Looks like it's time we talk about the changes in this game, because there are a lot of them. Controls have been revamped for the game as well. The most noteworthy change is giving players a quick swap feature that allows you to fast access to 3 types of weapons: melee through the X button, range with the left or right trigger, and throwable with left bumper. Every single item in this game is placed in one of these 3 categories. Due to this, you cannot throw items that are classified as melee weapons. The Y button's alternate attacks are no longer strictly for heavy attacks, but more for attempting to clear the area in front of you. It can also be used as an alternate air attack as well. A couple more changes came from the new zombie types. They no longer become more aggressive when the evening reaches, and there are no more queen wasps to be found. Speaking of the evening, they got rid of the overall timer for the campaign as well as the day to night cycle. Now, time only passes in the world of Dead Rising when you make progress in the story itself. Survivors work differently. Instead of having their own unique objectives and narratives, they just need your help clearing the area around them. And once you do help them, they simply drop a couple items as a thanks and return to the safe house. There's absolutely no escorting, just like in Case West. Psychopaths are now extinct. Instead, we have maniacs. The difference between them? They're all optional, they have minions to help them in the fight, they have no real strategy or unique ways of fighting, they lack any sort of intro, outro, or theme song, and the only narrative you get is through a transmission from Paula.
Let me make some notes here. Imaginary marketing pirate takes over Caribbean Cove. Harmless promotional stunt or more water fountains laced with mind-altering chemicals.
Combining weapons works a little differently now. Instead of specific items being combined into one, you take properties of one and add them to another. You don't need a torch to add fire elements to this dinosaur head, just something derived from chemical substances. Health ups have been completely changed as well. They are put into their own inventory indicated on the bottom left. You simply need to hit down on the D-pad to consume one. All health ups heal you the same amount. The ability to get sick as well as mixing drinks is now gone. Safe houses are back and contain all the shops that require scraps to buy items and collectible locations from various vendors. Weapon lockers, while making a debut in Dead Rising 3, have been removed for this game. Instead, safe houses have vendors for weapons, vehicles, clothing, and maps. These vendors exchange these items for scraps. It is a new money system which you find by killing random zombies, scavenging, and clearing side objectives. You can still change your clothes through large mirrors, and it stores any article of clothing you have worn. Keeping up a combo is easier than before. Rather than relying on kills to get the count rising, it was through confirmed hits. Just as before, gaining a certain amount of combo grants you a powerful execution. It would also grant you a special attack for combo vehicles. The cameras pan slightly farther from you when you're outside. It also stopped bobbing up and down. A welcoming change considering how people who suffer from motion sickness couldn't play Dead Rising 3 extensively without getting sick to their stomach. Campaign co-op has been removed from the game. Taking its place is mission-based competitive co-op with up to 4 players, very similar to the likes of the Arcade Remix DLC for Dead Rising 3 or Sunset Overdrive's multiplayer. In this mode, you can choose to play by yourself or with others online, completing competitive co-op objectives within the mall. You level up these characters separately and can earn blueprints of new combo weapons for Frank to use in the solo campaign.
It's too bad all the cows died at the dairy farm. Jordan could strap explosives to them and send them galumphing into Obscurus territory. And look out!
So that's the gameplay, but that isn't all Capcom Vancouver banked on to leave an impression. As you will see later, they heavily insist that they put a lot of effort into the campaign's story. So what is the story?
Just take what you want and cash the check.
Get out of here.
Frank West, expert Zombo journalist, is stuck inside of Willamette during what looks like a dream sequence.
What the hell?
Tearing through the undead with various weapons and chasing his own ghost, a shadow of his past, while we hear lines from the previous games, with different voice actors.
Zombies. Stupid and slow.
Zombies are stupid and slow.
Recited incorrectly.
It's Frank West. Remember that name because the whole world's gonna know it once I get this.
It's Frank West. Remember that name because the whole world's gonna know it in 3 days.
Anyway, he wakes up from his nightmare. You learn that he became a college professor for journalism, or photography, both? The government created a permanent cure for the Zombo virus through Nick's blood after the events of Dead Rising 3. So yeah, Frank doesn't need Zombrix or anything now. Whom I can only assume is a preferred student of his, Vic offered him a mini golf trip. It was just a ploy to get Frank's help in order for her to explore a rumor about some zombie-related shit going down in a military facility.
You said we were gonna go play mini golf.
Respectfully, Professor, I can't actually believe you fell for that.
I love mini golf.
Something about illegal human experiments going on. Frank fights the opportunity at first, but is eventually convinced to go with the plan.
All right, when I'm driving.
What? No, this is my car.
Vic, I forgive you. This is way better than mini golf.
Wow, a little callous, don't you think?
They're just zombies, Vic.
I know. It's just, they were people once.
It looks like they've been operating on them.
There's already a vaccine for zombieism. So what's the point?
Vic continues to show concern over stopping these experiments, but Frank only cares for getting evidence and leaving.
Look, we don't need all the answers, just enough to sell the story. Come on, let's keep moving.
They see in a surveillance feed that they're trying to come up with some sort of serum through zombies.
We're not improving the treatment, we're perfecting it.
What the client is expecting, this is the type of project that requires a lifetime of research. Now, the progress you see is...
If you can't meet the deadline, Doctor, you'll be replaced.
Wrong night to go commando, I tell you. Let me guess. You messed with my camera again, right?
You're a quick one.
That's what she said.
Holy shit, Frank. This is some atrocity level shit going on here, and the best you can do is crack wise? They're cloning people. Manufacturing fodder for zombie research. Experimenting on them, imprisoning them.
Vic, this story's gonna win us every award on the planet, so please, please, just stay focused long enough for us to get out of here.
I'm not going anywhere. I'm gonna burn this place to the ground.
Well, that's creepy. What a shot. You gotta be testing some kind of bioweaponized version of the virus. Vic, no! No! Damn it!
You were just gonna leave her? Just use her?
We need to get out of here. Do you understand me?
For your pictures! Your stupid pictures!
I'm a reporter, Vic. That's what I do. I report. And if you can't do the same, if you can't take yourself out of the picture, then you should get the hell out of here.
Anyway, they get caught and make a break for it, but Vic ditches his ass.
No! No! Vic! Vic! Shit! 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 Oh, shit! Shit! Shit!
Frank manages to make it out alive somehow, but the only story to come out of this was that Frank is being charged for assaulting unarmed guards in a reservist training center, and that the government is out to get him. We fast forward towards the day of Thanksgiving. Frank West is still at large. In the town of Willamette, Colorado, a brand new mall opens up as Willamette Memorial Megaplex. And coincidentally, a new zombo virus outbreak occurs and spreads throughout the entire city. Who did it? Was it you, Moon? Anyway, a couple months later, you see Brad Park make a return from Dead Rising 3's Last Agent DLC. He enters a classroom run by Hank East. Using that alias, it appears Frank decided to teach wedding photography, something Brad sees right through immediately, obviously through prior investigating.
Am I under arrest?
Possibly.
Just got stuffy in here, don't you think? A little fresh air here. I really thought that would work.
Frank eventually decides to stop making an ass out of himself and levels with him.
I know who you are. Colonel Brad Park, commander of the ZDC. I'm up on my zombie news, thank you very much.
Wait, really? The end of The Last Agent heavily implied that he abandoned the ZDC. Whatever. He informs Frank about the outbreak that happened in Willamette. It's currently being held under wraps, away from the public eye. Brad tells Frank that his infiltration with Vic is also being covered up, that even the ZDC doesn't know what happened that night or what was inside the building.
What did you see there?
You know what I saw.
Nobody knows, Frank. The only reason I found out is because somebody screwed up and passed me a top-level report. This reservist training center, I have yet to see anyone who's actually stationed there. All communications in and out of the town are gone. Now the satellite photos have been updated in 4 months. It is being covered up.
Frank emphasizes that he's sick of trying to expose the truth because of his previous experiences, namely the first outbreak from 2006.
Do you know how many outbreaks I've been part of? How many I've covered? And what thanks have I gotten? Huh? Nothing. No thank yous, no flowers, just a contact book filled with dead people. 3 weeks later, I tried to expose the Pentagon and the entire US government for their involvement with it, and they buried me!
Because you didn't have sufficient evidence.
Brad promises that if Frank helps him uncover what's happening in Willamette, he'll get all the sufficient evidence he needs to get the ultimate story. Brad also informs him that Vic is already within the city, trying to uncover it herself.
Hell of a team you've assembled.
On their way to Willamette, you see them get shot down by a particular duo, one you saw in the surveillance footage earlier.
Get a squad out there. Capture or kill, your discretion.
They survive the crash, smack dab in the middle of Willamette Memorial Mall's food court.
Damn, food court zombies are the worst.
All right, we need cover. That hotel looks good.
3 stars at best.
You ever stop clowning?
Can we get a room? Separate beds, though.
Oh, you're hilarious.
Frank learns from the mall's hotel employee about the outbreak, particularly how the military has been occupying the area since the very beginning, and possibly trying to hide something.
I know these military assholes were guarding something super secret near the mall front entrance, but there's this journalist.
What journalist?
And she had a boy's name. Can't remember.
Vic. Where's Vic now?
He finds the hideout Vic was using, but she is absent from it. Although Frank learns she's been here practically since the outbreak started, trying to crack the case.
Cute.
Traversing through the mall, Frank also runs into some maniacs.
Queen Sandra, so ye can go and fuck us right off!
Your mother was a gopher and your father smells of body spray.
Just send me the bill!
He reaches the main entrance of the mall. Frank learns of a militarized army known as Obscurus is the group occupying Willamette. After going through the campsite right outside the mall, he sees what looks like unearthly activity. Through a fanatic named Darcy, he agrees to work with someone named Paula.
Hello?
Is this Frank West, savior of Willamette?
Yes, though I also answered a hey asshole or Frank who.
Yeah, I'm Paula, as in the undead gospel of It's My Zombie podcast.
She essentially becomes your Otis, or Stacy, or Jamie. She gives Frank leads on what Obscurus is looking for in the city and heads to find out more. He finds a bit more info on what Obscurus is trying to track down. Seems monstrous. Nothing like regular zombies. He sees Vic is already talking to them, a lady named Fontana. She is trying to get info on the epidemic by selling a group of rebels she was with.
One was a man, the other a woman. Tenure officers and friends.
I know where they're gonna hit you next. I know how many are going, I know the name of the leader. I know where they hide their food.
Darcy has also been caught snooping.
Found this civilian messing around with one of our computers.
Put him under watch. Get him a meal and a shower. He stinks like shit.
Yes, sir.
All right, Miss Chu, you can ask your questions. Lieutenant, she's coming with us. Mr. West, it's a shame you're not proving as useful as your friend.
Really? What stopped them from seeing him sooner? Frank goes on the pursuit after them, but gets tranquilized.
Damn it. What a... Whoa. Hey.
He wakes up in a Walking Dead scene, which serves as the subplot. An unhinged fellow named Tom tries to get his help on raiding the Obscurus military. He also rants about trying to help Vic while she only wanted answers from them. This is clearly the group she betrayed in the earlier scene. Frank requests help to get into the big dam Obscurus is stationed in order to find more about them.
Only one who might know her way into that dam is my engineer Hammond. She was leading that raid. The one that your little buddy sold us upriver on.
Isaac tells Frank that he has to help Hammond, who's pinned down near the school. He meets up with Hammond, former city's chief engineer. She gives Frank keys to the dam. Brad informs Frank that this is a different unseen string of the virus.
Frank, I just got some analysis back on the reading. This outbreak is immune to the vaccine and to Zombrex.
Holy shit. A new strain.
An old one. Santa Cabeza old, so don't get bit.
Darcy informs Frank about Obscurus panicking over a monster inside the town named Calder, and that they have been tracking him down since before the outbreak occurred. Frank heads to their dam, sees they have captured something, but he runs into another boss.
All right.
After defeating him, Frank catches up with the truck that was transporting Calder, only to see he, or it, has escaped.
This door was punched out from the inside. What the hell did this?
He tracks him down to the sewers, but gets separated between a locked gate and runs into one of the Evo zombies.
Oh shit. Hey, I was just, okay. Good super weird zombie. Good, nice super weird zombie.
Afterward, Frank receives a message from Blackburn.
Tell the ZDC I want to be evacuated by helicopter in the next 48 hours. In exchange, I have information. I didn't start the outbreak, Mr. West. We were here long before that. Years before. Do you remember a certain scientist by the name of...
He also catches up with Vic, who seems to be threatening a survivor. She seems very desperate for answers. Vic swears that Tom and his survivors aren't as innocent as Frank thinks, but he thinks she is just trying to get the big story and doesn't actually care about anyone here.
No, I know what this is about. You're trying to get the big story, right? The big scoop.
Really, Frank? Blackburn, the freed survivor, was from the facility in the beginning. She informs Frank that Obscurus is trying to find a secret lab inside the house of Dr. Barnaby.
That's Dr. Barnaby. He basically created zombieism.
The secret laboratory and the research project were both his, and both were abandoned on his death in 2006.
Yes, that same Dr. Barnaby from the first Dead Rising. Throwback. She was apparently his assistant back in the day.
Then go to the Golden Apple Winery. Barnaby built it as a front to hide the lab. Look in the cellar.
Frank ends up finding it, but not before Obscurus already raided the place. He finds a laboratory with a particularly large machine. After failing to find any files on what all this research means, he meets up with Hammond in order to get help breaking into the Obscurus base. He gets a lead from Brad. Frank finds and investigates a research facility. He finds a previous recording of Obscurus scouring Barnaby's underground bunker. A particular fellow named Calder is leading the team.
Hanson, perimeter.
Copy.
Vargas, inventory. Pick a tag at Cadid.
Roger that.
McCullough, get your head out of your ass. Power and safety, I don't want any accidents.
You see a plot convenience infect the team with the hidden virus strain Barnaby had a hold of.
Hanson! Get out of there! Move it!
Along with that, Calder enters the giant machine in Barnaby's basement, for some reason, as he gets covered in, I don't know, bugs? They don't specify. He hits the machine's big red button. Why? He didn't even know what it does. This appears to mutate him as he is becoming infected. Frank then confronts Fontana. He tells her that he knows what she is up to in a very cliche manner.
You're trying to finish Barnaby's research. Parlay zombieism into some kind of immortality treatment. Trying to make a mint off a bunch of aging millionaires.
That was the plan, but I guess immortality isn't as profitable as cheap labor.
After that boss fight, Calder breaks in out of nowhere.
Commander, we are inbound to your position. Do you need assistance? Copy.
Negative. Do not come here.
Fontana decides to sacrifice herself as an attempt to kill him. Why she thought that would do literally anything to him is baffling. Anyway, this is pretty much the end of Obscurus. Frank says so.
Guess that's it for Obscurus.
All he takes from this ordeal is that Calder is the only one who has definitive evidence of Barnaby's project for immortality. With that, we're forced back into the uninteresting subplot that is Tom and Hammond.
God, I hope Hammond's alright.
What do you mean? She's not here?
Tom's people took her and Jordan. We tried to go back for her, but those hillbilly dicks hit the lockdown. Tom's probably holding her at the farm.
I'll go check. Keep your radio on. I'll shout if I learn anything.
Frank catches up to Tom as he's preparing to execute Hammond.
In accordance with the laws...
Nut job!
Huh? Set down by me! Bitch!
She gets away and this leads to another boss fight. When Frank is done pumping endless lead into Tom's face, Hammond comes in for revenge.
Sometimes...
Yay. Afterward, Frank heads to the sewer for one last confrontation. He finds Calder talking to... zombies?
Rat into fox, fox into wolf. On and on and on. The great unmaking of the chain.
Oh, this is new.
Where then goes the man?
What is going on? Anyway, Frank somehow, from all the way over there, sees that Calder is about to break a small hard drive. How does he know that's even a hard drive? Never mind how plain it looks, Frank definitely can't see what kinds of ports it has from all the way over there. Maybe if he had his camera out to zoom in, I'd believe this. Anyway, he gets his attention and he freaks out. The entire sewer is coming down, so it's time to make a run for it. Frank manages to get the evidence he needs to blow the case wide open and copy it to his camera.
Here we go.
Dr. Russell Barnaby, Epidemiology and Entomology. This storage directory contains all my research into human immortality. It also contains all correspondence with the Pentagon. I have various documentation, all confirming the involvement of the Secretary of Defense, various generals...
Why wouldn't he just pocket the hard drive? I guess so the next thing can happen. Vic appears out of fucking nowhere and confronts him.
Hi.
Give it to me. Just do it. Come on.
Okay.
I'm not gonna let you sell this to the highest bidder. This time we're gonna do it the right way.
Yeah, you keep telling yourself that.
Step away from the hard drive.
She takes his camera and destroys the original evidence. Why couldn't it just be her stealing the hard drive? I know I keep hammering this little thing, but it really bothers me that this shit is completely illogical and inhuman behavior.
So, what? No more mini-golf?
Forced into another chase scenario, Frank catches up with Vic, but not before Calder knocks her down and takes his camera, then destroys it.
Behind glass. Take all you see. Claim this, take that. Make it all yours. Give nothing back.
All right. A bit heavy, but I agree. I could do better. Tomorrow morning. Give me the camera back. I'm a new man tomorrow, I promise.
You are part of the chain, Frank West. And I must break the chain.
I know. Dude, you did it. God, I hate you.
Wiping out any remaining evidence of Obscurus and the government's involvement with the outbreak. After the longest and most mind-numbing boss fight in the game, Calder finally dies.
Nothing will take the man. The chain remains.
Frank tends to Vic. They pass apologies to each other, but Vic also reveals that she managed to salvage the data from his camera.
What is that?
An SD card? From your camera?
You pulled it?
Yeah.
Before it blew up.
She wants to provide her perspective of the story with his evidence. Brad tells them the evac is meeting them on the rooftop of the mall, so they gotta make their way to it. Unfortunately, something really original happens.
I need a vodka and whiskey.
Shit! Roll up! Roll up now!
Wait a second, how did that zombie jump through the blades? That's impossible. With that, Brad calls for another chopper, which arrives in 5 minutes while you're forced into another really original scenario. When the chopper arrives, something else really original happens.
Let's go!
Frank! Wait! They've got Frank!
Come on! Pull yourself up! Keep your eye on the prize.
Frank!
Yep, Frank dies. If you're dumb enough to believe that. Okay, this is where overtime mode begins. Oh, wait. Oh. Oof, that was not... Yeesh. And what about the other endings? You die in every... Oh, wait. There are no alternate endings either. Wow. Even the downloadable chapters for Dead Rising 2 had alternate endings. Even the non-canonical iteration of Dead Rising 2 had alternate endings. So this is all the game has to show for. We got a lot to talk about here.
It's just... they were people once.
Look, it was them or me. Can we just get on with the reportage?
First, what I enjoyed. I think Capcom Vancouver realizes where they messed up for Dead Rising 3 in certain points, which is why they removed the weapons lockers. I said it before and I'll say it again, that was a horrible decision that discouraged exploring. This game encourages you to grind for scrap in order to be well stocked by the vendors as an alternative. I also like that they brought the mall back. A big problem with Dead Rising 3 is that it had absolutely no charm or interesting areas to run around and find silly junk to use on the undead. It was just a boring city full of dormant cars and dildos, so the mall with its multiple themes is a huge plus for this title. But does the mall stack up against the original Willamette? More on that later. The exosuits, while completely nonsensical, are a good idea. Like I said before, it's just them trying to step up the gameplay with a new mechanic. Considering we can make things like this, and this, and this, it's something I find more welcoming than others. In my opinion though, they don't need to have any real involvement in the story. Fighting a single boss with the suit just isn't fun since it was clearly designed for massive waves of enemies. It's a big Capcom costume party. They didn't limit the number of wardrobe cameos for this game. Not surprising considering the Arcade Remix DLC for the previous game. Within Dead Rising 4 will be a lot of wonderful classic appearances. I enjoyed how you had to investigate areas throughout the story with your camera. While the idea of photography was used as a way to have a unique experience in the first Dead Rising, I like how they utilized the idea of Frank being an established journalist at this point. It is mandatory to take photos during scenes of interest in order for the story to progress, unlike in Off the Record. It also adds to his character. And no, I don't have a problem with the free use of selfies. They look just as stupid as they did in Off the Record. One thing that may be overlooked, the blood effects. It was such a nice looking liquidy texture. After how bad the blood looked in both Dead Rising 2 and 3, it's great that they put focus on it this time around since, you know, we see a lot of it. They fixed the map. Dead Rising 3 tried cramming potentially 4 vertical floors into one map and parts of it are completely illegible. Dead Rising 4's map is multi-layered again, thankfully. Alright, now for the fun part, what I did not like about this game. This is like Santa's naughty list. There's a lot to cover. Some of these points may sound nitpicky, but between those are what I believe to be serious faults in the game's design. While the mall itself is pretty nice and well furnished within stores, the military-occupied city completely sucks. Besides looting stuff from rich family homes, there's absolutely nothing interesting about this middle America town. I guess what Ed DeLuca stated in the first game still rings true.
Willamette, Colorado. Distinguishing characteristics? Jack shit. About the only thing to do in this town is kill time at the shopping mall.
Was it intentional? But speaking of which, I absolutely hate how they cut corners for the mall. You'll notice a lot of stores' shutters are closed. Every single store in Dead Rising 1's mall was open. Hell, every single store in Dead Rising 2's plaza was open, and that was even bigger. They had no excuse for this. While I know firsthand how boring a travel agency business is, I want to go in it if there's one in Dead Rising. I really missed their narrative of the survivors. No doubt it was something completely forgettable in Dead Rising 3 with only a couple notable stories. It was something that helped shape the world in Dead Rising 1 and 2. What would be dark, disturbing tales of a woman witnessing her baby getting devoured by the undead, a man whom you can assist his suicide, or a psychopath that just needs to be shown one good deed to turn him around. Now amounts to, thanks for helping me. Okay, bye. Not that this game even has psychopaths, instead we have maniacs. I knew the moment the developers excreted this term out of their mouths when asked about the bosses for this game that expecting the worst would not only be pessimistic, but also accurate. After all, I feel that the term psychopath is pretty heavy and striking. Only someone who's a serious threat to everyone around them due to a mental breakage should be called a psychopath. Maniac is what you call your dog when they're getting too excited. No theme song, no intro, no unique fighting style, no original models. In fact, you'll notice most of them are completely faceless. Why did they do this? The psychopaths were the centerpiece of the game, added a black comedy-esque wackiness to the world, and emphasized how absolutely fucked everyone was. Now we get Santa in the Santa display, high school mascot in the high school, pirate man in the pirate ship. They also fight with combo weapons and wield them exactly how you would if you were using them. They really had no imagination for this. I'm not saying the boss fights in Dead Rising 1 and 2 were perfect. Most of them were certainly easy to defeat once you reach a certain status level and or find a particular weapon. Even so, playing irresponsibly against them, especially on your first run, can mean immediate tragedy. This is because a lot of them had different strategies. Cletus stayed behind the counter and had his shotgun with ridiculous knockback power. Adam was able to deflect attacks easily and would need to be opened up with particular counterattacks. Cliff was very fast and able to use the trap doors nearby to make quick escapes. You get the idea. They all fought differently, and I don't think there's any need to mention their random and unpredictable frames of invincibility during their animations. In Dead Rising 4, every single maniac, and nearly all of the other bosses, can be easily taken down by wailing on them with a single combo weapon or spamming just about any projectile. Have 1 or 2 healing items, and the threat level goes from 7% to fucking 0. How anybody on the face of the planet can look at the maniacs in Dead Rising 4 as an improvement is just baffling. Not that I know anyone that does, it's a unanimous opinion that this idea was terrible. The combo weapons are more limited than ever. Not only do many still reuse the same animations between each other, but there's a lot less of them now. Just about all combo weapons are not combinations of 2 specific items making one big bastard. Instead, most of them are just combining one item with an element of another item. This was in order to make combining weapons on the fly easier. Dead Rising 3 utilized this in a sense, but still tried to make weapon combinations the way they were in Dead Rising 2 when it came to creating particular weapons. That concept is no longer part of this game. Due to this, we get a lot of unimaginative combo weapons. Hammer with acid, hammer with explosions, sword with fire, sword with ice, Santa toy with ice, Santa toy with acid, Santa toy with fire. Ugh. Those rescued survivors we mentioned earlier also randomly drop combo weapons. It is no longer a unique mechanic to your character. Apparently anyone can make deadly weapons now. Even the most obnoxious ones. It's been so long since Dead Rising 2, I guess at this point anyone can duct tape a knife and sword together. Or grenades and a sledgehammer, yeah sure, whatever. The game runs poorly too. It has more glitches and bugs than every other game in the franchise combined. If you haven't seen my glitch compilation, here's a taste. A lot of ridiculous shit happens. I've been playing the Windows 10 version, but from my understanding, just about all these glitches and bugs are present in the Xbox One version as well. Many that have probably been squashed since Xbox One is ahead of PC with particular updates and fixes. Even if the game is patched and runs fine by the time this video launches, I don't care. It shouldn't have been rushed out the way it was. The soundtrack is just terrible. The cheesy and uninspired tracks that randomly come on throughout the game become tiresome very quickly. Also, and this could just be from my experience in working retail, I fucking hate the Christmas music. Props for them making some Christmas songs that I think are actually original. Even so, it was nauseating to hear. The last straw was being forced to listen to this shit in the pause menu, so I just shut the music off. The nice thing about this is that it doesn't turn off the recycled mall music from Dead Rising 1 when you're in the Memorial Megaplex, since it counts as environmental sound. Besides that, nothing new from Oahu, obviously. Nothing from licensed bands, not even any tracks from that hack Cell Dweller. Instead, we just get bullshit like this. god, why did they go with a Christmas theme? It doesn't add anything unique to the experience or gameplay. It doesn't even impact the story in any way, shape, or form. You just see ornaments you'd rather see in real life if you're not fucking sick of them. At least the theme seems harmless, like in that one PSP game Infected, but in the end, it all feels so pointless. The gameplay is so mind-numbing and tedious. It focuses on you killing mass hordes of zombies more than any other title before it. Even the idea of exploring is minimized, considering side objectives appear at random in your vicinity and the maniacs are immediately marked on your map when available. The developers clearly took a huge risk in thinking that mindlessly killing waves of the undead is all we need to stay interested, considering how little thought was put into everything else. Besides finding new boring weapons, the only incentive to clearing side objectives and exploring is to make your map look less cluttered and more complete, considering how effortless it is to gain PP. Although some of the extra pieces of lore aren't too bad. Kinda reminds me of the audio logs in Doom 3 and Bioshock. You see how some people were before and during the outbreak.
Ah, I see you came in from Portland. It's nice to watch newcomers come in, help us rebuild.
You need some fresh meat, else you haven't got a city at all. Oh, jeez, I'm sorry, that was insensitive. Sorry, sir.
Seeing how the survivors provide absolutely zero narrative, this is better than nothing. It's also pathetically easy. I already emphasized how the bosses are the most boring shit in the world, but the zombies don't provide any real challenge either. Just like in Dead Rising 3, I never died on my first run. Multiplayer feels really uninspired and boring. It's also incredibly unstable. I even tried playing private matches with friends whom I know for a fact have excellent connection along with me, and the game still chugged and wheezed with lag from beginning to end. Even if it was truly lag-free, the missions and characters are so uninteresting. They tried going with the Dead Rising Arcade Remix DLC approach, but removed pretty much all the elements that made it fun. And for good reason, since those elements wouldn't have worked in the first place. Still, you would think this means they wouldn't bother with this. Why did they go with this in favor of two-player co-op campaign? There's absolutely no way to explore the game in its entirety with a friend. That was a huge selling point for all of the Dead Rising games after the first title. Why on earth would they get rid of this? It's not like games these days don't have cooperative campaigns. The mall, while certainly large, just doesn't have a lot of charm outside of its multiple themes. It certainly looks like a nice big complex, but for some reason, they don't let you use a lot of the items inside the store. Many which, mind you, were usable in previous Dead Rising games. I want to smash their heads with weights, I want to throw huge benches and guardrails, I want to skateboard through them. While particular items certainly made their return, the devs seem to misunderstand why people like using some of these in the first place. We like kicking the soccer ball to knock zombies down. They don't even let you do that since it's classified as throwable. Great. It was not only fun, but a saving grace to use the umbrella and charge ahead, knocking all the zombies in front of you. Now, it's just a really shitty poking device. But to be completely fair, Dead Rising 3 did this too. They just couldn't be damned enough to fix this. It was awesome launching pucks at random zombies with the hockey sticks, not just whack them over the head like you can with 1,000 other items. Same goes for the golf club. Those golf balls were deadly. I thought Frank liked golf in this. Wouldn't this have been obvious? Or are you saving this for your inane DLC chapter? I guess so. I really think Capcom Vancouver thought the one and only thing you can do with zombies in original games besides killing them is putting masks on them. This poor design, lack of items, and new control scheme limits what you can do in the game, leaving you feeling even more hindered than in Dead Rising 1. Why on earth did they think giving you less capabilities would make the game more fun? Zombies are nothing more but sacks of blood waiting to get sliced, smashed, or gutted now. Also, it's worth adding that they don't let you pick up items in these stores that are already weapons in this game. The character models themselves are having a lot of problems as well. Sometimes they look fine, but at their worst, they look like these hideous creatures. Sometimes it looks like someone wearing another person's skin. And at their best, they look like wax figures. They're missing a lot of facial details. In fact, certain characters just look permanently airbrushed. Dead Rising 3's facial features look better than this. Also, their hair looks like complete shit, but it's barely worth mentioning. Not all games can be Alice Madness Returns. The zombies look even more generic. Maybe it just has to do with the fact that they tried to add more unique models than ever before, I think, but nothing really stands out for any of them. I'll never forget particular ones in Dead Rising 1 and even 2. They felt like there was just a smidge more personality put into them. Speaking of which, one of the new types of zombies is just simply terrible. In the first game, there was only one type of zombie, and they only changed behaviors during the evening. They were only intimidating en masse, especially if you had survivors with you. Dead Rising 2, the zombies were more of the same, but once they introduced gas zombies, those quick bastards incited fear and panic to any player since they can really ruin your day quickly with their projectile vomit and vicious attacks. Dead Rising 3 provided different types of zombies that depended on who it was that turned. Firemen, convicts, special forces, etc. They weren't much different, but I appreciate the variety. Dead Rising 4, while the fresh zombies was definitely a good approach, the Evo zombies are only nuisances. It isn't scary that these stupid green shitheads jump all over the place, have invincibility frames and auto counters. It's just annoying. But I digress, the idea of fresh zombies is good and should remain in the series. Multiple safe houses is a good thing for an overworld this big. I didn't mind the idea in Dead Rising 3, but what is really stupid is how all 5 of them in Dead Rising 4 look exactly the same. Completely exact interior, completely exact design. This just adds to the list of how these developers cut corners for this entry. There's absolutely no way to save manually. Why the hell did they remove manual saving? Get rid of save stalls, fine, but not even giving me the ability to save in the pause menu is just ridiculous. I'm forced to travel around till I stumble upon an autosave checkpoint in order to keep my progress. I find it hard to believe that this method was even intentional as the only way to save. A big topic discussed is the removal of the in-game timer. It's a very controversial topic. Some people were glad, others were very upset. But what did I think? I understand where the devs are coming from when saying that it was such a non-issue in Dead Rising 3 since they gave you so much time for everything. But does that really mean they need to outright remove it? We'll talk more about the timer later, but for now, I'll say this. Removing it means you want them to experience the game in its entirety, right? You want them to be able to go out and have fun with all the neat things you implemented in this world. If that's the case, the side objectives and collectibles must be really unique and intricate, more than the previous titles. After all, you're not limited to how quickly you need to complete these objectives or find the collectibles.
Ladies and gentlemen, start your engines!
Never mind. If it wasn't already obvious enough, the story is complete shit. Not only is it riddled with plot holes, it's so boring and painfully by the books. It's the equivalent to those trashy direct-to-sci-fi channel movies. It's pretty comparable to the Dead Rising movies as well, but we'll talk about those exclusively another time. It does nothing interesting and doesn't have any decent twist. The only sort of impact there can be for the player would be the callback to Dr. Barnaby and his unfound research. That's it. So if someone playing this didn't even experience Dead Rising 1, that pretty much means nothing to them. And what about the clone aspect of these Zombo experiments? That was completely dropped after the prologue. Oh well, they're probably saving it for the bullshit DLC chapter. And how absolutely stupid of them to reveal very detailed descriptions of said chapter. They pretty much tell us the ending of the main game months before it even launches. Was that really necessary? It's such a disgusting practice too. Did Capcom really forget they tried doing this with Azura's Wrath and its story? It was met with vitriol and anguish. No doubt Capcom's DLC practice for the game hurt potential sales. Why on earth would they try this again? I understand an argument would be that Case West wasn't much different, but the DLC chapter for Dead Rising 4 isn't out yet. We'll have to speculate a bit for now. Case West felt more like it was setting up future installments, unlike Azura's Wrath, which only gave you a set-in-stone conclusion to the story and all of its characters involved. It's possible that the upcoming chapter for Dead Rising 4 will likely set up potential sequels, but there's something else to consider. The ending to Dead Rising 4 is strikingly similar to Dead Rising 1 and 2. The protagonist makes way for his escape, only to get it snatched away by zombies. It appears to be a hopeless situation and seemingly ends with the character's eventual demise. But in Dead Rising 1, there was still another chapter included in the base game, Overtime Mode. As for Dead Rising 2, you're able to go for an alternate scenario that led you to that game's Overtime Mode. Alternate endings are completely removed for this game, giving the developers even less to worry about. You would think asking for Overtime Mode in Dead Rising 4, keeping a tradition even the third game followed, is a reasonable request. Evidently not. After Dead Rising 3's terrible story, I didn't really expect this to be any better. In fact, I was expecting worse. Hell, I was hoping for worse. I was hoping for a story so bad that it was laughable and entertaining. Instead, we get a boring, generic mishmash of countless zombie science fiction stories we've all read or seen before this. Hell, they're already bringing back the cloning aspect from the first game. How about Isabella is back trying to clone a dead Carlito? Just shove more throwbacks in the game, why the fuck not? She's apparently obsessed with the family name, so it's honestly expected. What's left? I guess Frank West, the returning protagonist. His involvement in Dead Rising 4 is probably talked about more than anything else. It's almost not even worth mentioning what they did to him. But it's a fun thing to talk about. Now, where to begin? Frank always seemed to stand out as the favorite protagonist in the series more than the rest of the cast. One of the reasons is because of his personality being so unconventional. We've already touched on this. In Dead Rising 2 Off the Record, he changed a bit, but it didn't feel like a blatant change. It was just that he seemed to have grown more as a character, dealing with something he's more familiar with. He's tougher, more confident, but not without a strange sense of humor. Even so, the humor wasn't enough to cover his boorish personality. All in all, it was a good way to grow Frank as a character, albeit exaggerated, which I can only assume is the case since the game was technically just in his imagination. Dead Rising 4, however, they seem to change his sense of humor. It feels like they're trying to make him less like black comedy and just more wholesome. Very predictable lines from beginning to end, and pretty much none of them ending with a laugh from the player. At least not from me. He doesn't really feel like a journalist throwing himself into a dire situation, just a buffoon with random fits of rage or confidence in order to make out of situations alive. Instead of quick, cheesy, amusing little quips, we get obnoxious jokes, expletives on top of expletives, and real-world references that just feel out of place.
Thanks, Obama!
It's supposed to be 2022 in this world. They also changed his appearance quite a bit. He doesn't have what many would call the dad bod, and is actually pretty fit. Look at them abs. I personally was not surprised by this. They changed his appearance a lot. Between almost every game he's in, he doesn't stay the same. It's something that happens with video game characters, especially those that return for new generations. So I would honestly let it be, and wouldn't have as much of a problem with it if he looked less like a wax figure. And how about his voice? The first time everyone heard Frank in a preview, a lot of people were confused by it. All Dead Rising fans immediately noticed that's definitely not TJ Rotolo. So who was this voice actor? Let's see here. Victor Noslo? There's no information on this person. Noslo doesn't even sound like a real name. Well, it only takes some detective skills to find out Noslo is backwards for Olsen. Ty Olsen, that is. Famous for his role in Supernatural, it appears Capcom wanted to get a more prominent actor for their game, in a similar fashion to when Kiefer Sutherland became the voice for Snake in Metal Gear Solid 5. While Ty Olsen is certainly voicing Frank with a different demeanor compared to his character in Supernatural,
I found a way back. Right next door as far as I could tell. Oh, I think I'll just have to show you.
it can pretty much be proven it's him when you hear his casual voice.
So I'm gonna ask you a favor. I will do the orc voice if you close your eyes. Do you know how many outbreaks I've been part of? How many I've covered? And what thanks have I gotten? Huh? Nothing.
There's also the strange coincidence that a lot of these voice actors have played roles in Supernatural. Is that show in Canada? But why cover it up with an alias? You would think they would advertise this as a selling point. I'd imagine it costs more to hire someone like him than Rotolo. Very strange. Needless to say, a lot of the fans were upset with this change, myself included, but honestly, I can imagine this was an extremely early decision by Capcom Vancouver because this new Frank West is almost nothing like the original. I can recall a lot of people in various forums saying they would have enjoyed the game more if Rotolo was just voicing Frank in this current state. I can't really agree with that. While I find his raspy voice more appealing than the new raspy voice, I don't think it would fit this character. I can't imagine Rotolo giving his performance to horrible lines like, "Light my balls on fire, what the shit happened here?" It would honestly just sound out of place. If they're going to bring back Rotolo, it would only be right to make Frank like he was before. Now, this new Frank just feels like it was written by people who thought they were replicating what Frank was like in Off the Record, but misunderstanding that perspective. Meanwhile, going completely overboard with this sense of humor, making him extremely obnoxious. In fact, another way to look at it is that he's like Rob Riggle's portrayal of Frank in Dead Rising Watchtower. Predictable lines that have only a single mission: to make the person witnessing it groan or become frustrated.
Right now, real quick, pop quiz. How would you kill me if you could?
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Right now with my bare hands.
This wouldn't be the first time Capcom devs get inspiration from film adaptations of the games they're working on. And what about his involvement with the story as a returning protagonist? Honestly, it doesn't feel like he had any real impact as the great photojournalist Frank West. If you're going to completely strip away everything that fans adored him for, why bring him back? At the very least, using Frank again as the main protagonist only makes sense if you do justice to his character. Seeing as how you felt like changing his appearance, personality, voice, and demeanor, why not just make a new hero for this story? Ultimately, if Frank was to be in this game at all, I don't think he should have been the protagonist. It should have been Vic. Hell, I wouldn't be surprised if this was put into consideration by them early on. Yay, progression! Oh wait, we've had female protagonists in video games since the 80s. Never mind. But her name does qualify by ending with K in order to keep it consistent. Frank, Chuck, Nick, Vic, Dick. The only problem I'd imagine anyone would have is the disbelief of her being able to wield particular weapons properly or donning the exosuit. But who really cares? It's a fucking zombie game. Reality should be a secondary thought when it comes to the gameplay. The multiplayer mode already has a female character, so I don't think having Vic as a protagonist would be a real problem. On top of that, make Frank West still involved in the story and play the role of withering old protagonist passing the torch, and his involvement will probably have more meaning. I'm sorry, Des, but shoving Frank in our faces the way you did was just a mistake. God, how did the game end up like this? Let's find a little more insight.
Yes, I work for National Geographic. They sent me up here to shoot the local indigenous vermin. Oh look, I found you all.
There is a decent amount of interviews, talks with the developers including some of the biggest decision makers for Dead Rising 4. So let's dig in. First interview to look into would be from GameIndustry.biz, talking to Joe Nichols, the director of the game. We'll pick at particular lines. Joe Nichols states, "We had 3 writers on this project, and that's 3 times as many as we've ever had before." Okay, flexing the number of writers you have, fine. I don't really see what the benefit of it is when the story is this short. We're talking proper video game writers that knew exactly how to weave the story. Our lead writer worked on the most recent Deus Ex. I'm sorry, were the stories in Dead Rising 1 and 2 not proper? With him mentioning how they've had more writers in this than any Dead Rising game before, I feel like that's what he's implying. I don't want to speak ill of anyone, but the writer we've had in the past was someone who had done some creative writing, was working at Capcom and wrote us a story. This time, we got a proper video game designer / writer. Well, you spoke ill of her, him, them, heavily implying that they didn't write a proper story. Sorry, Annie Reed or Dan Brady, who is apparently now one person. The message behind the game is around consumerism and Black Friday, and we're asking, who is the monster? The zombies running around, or is it what caused everyone to fight each other and demand these products and services? Holy shit. As if that isn't the most tired concept in zombie-related media. The who are the real monsters question is something that could be asked in just about any zombie-related book, movie, game, or what have you. But only the shittiest and least creative people bother with that when weaving their story. Pathetic. I often say this is not the thinking man's game, but there are some messages in there that might make you think a little bit more than usual. I think a lot of people will miss the whole consumerism thing. They'll say, it's a Christmas game with zombies, and they won't go that deep. Really? You guys really think you're being that clever? Taking the same thematic bullshit from Dawn of the Dead, a movie that's 40 years old and probably was the inspiration to the first fucking Dead Rising game? The first fucking Dead Rising game, which, by the way, does a hell of a lot more than make the same exact statement that Dawn of the Dead had. We all know the thematic consumerism / anti-corrupt government and corporatism message comes from Carlito's revenge plan that led to the zombies coming to America. But the overarching message isn't just a commentary towards those things. They do a lot more than that if you really dive into the story and think about it. It's about how humans hit hard against nature with some of their misdeeds and just how hard she's going to hit back. It's not just about how far science will go without the concept of morality, which we've already seen in other forms of entertainment, including video games. It's about how nature can fight back against the things we do. This isn't the most obvious shit in the world, but it isn't that hard to figure out. The intricate narrative that clearly goes past the simple observation of zombies in a mall, an overarching message is why people love the first Dead Rising story so much, besides Frank being an unconventional but likable character. And you have the fucking nerve to say most people won't get this puddle-deep bullshit you came out with? You really think you're being clever with this? Social commentary with zombies has been done. It's been done a lot. The geniuses behind the first game understood that, and they knew they had to go beyond that simple kind of message. The folks you have in your writing department didn't even try, hence the piles of plot conveniences and predictable scenes. You're not special, and neither is your story. Bryce Cockring, producer of the game, chimes in. One of our goals is to really make a product that means we can make Dead Rising 5, 6, 7. That involves expanding and changing the franchise, and therefore sometimes we need to take risks. He later adds, we wanted to innovate, and that will always mean some change, and sometimes that could be uncomfortable, but it can also lead to great things. These are important quotes to remember, so just keep that in the back of your mind for now. You'll see this is completely different from what they try to tell hardcore fans about this new title. Our next interview comes from VentureBeat.com, with the producer Cockring once again. Consumerism was a very big part of the original game and why the outbreak happened. I think malls full of shoppers are very much like zombies and the perfect place for this outbreak to happen. I swear to God, Universal should try suing again. Next up is an interview with Nichols again by PCPowerPlay.com. When the first game came out, it was big in Japan.
Meyer.
It was really kind of a Japanese take on things. We thought it would be good to update it, bring it into 2016, new console, improved look, just making the Frank that I think we've always wanted to make. Well, it was a literal Japanese interpretation of Western culture, sure, but it's not like the design, characters, mannerisms, or designs were Japanese-like. Supposedly the developers even took tours across America to get an idea what malls were like, since they don't exist in Japan. Back to the quote, it sounds like they wanted to change Frank's personality from the very beginning. Worth noting. He goes on, I think Frank in Dead Rising 1 felt really video gamey. There's nothing wrong with that, but the thing we wanted to do was give people a better connection to Frank. We wanted to make him more relatable, and he's still a total smartass, but he's more relatable now. What made Frank so video gamey? Honestly, it might not be the easiest thing to define in the first place, but I suppose some ways to look at it is if the character's so wooden and unconvincing, it's hard to even consider them being people. Good examples are probably the original Resident Evil games. Or it could mean the personalities are so bubbly or chauvinistic that it just passes as a cartoon character, good examples being Mario or Sonic. One last example, maybe they're so overconfident due to the kind of abilities they have, such as Dante or Bayonetta. Frank wasn't really any of these things in Dead Rising 1 or 2. So what is he talking about? Making predictable jokes and references make him more relatable now? He's a little more street savvy, he's a little more weathered, his outlook on life is a little more up to date. It's funny because it just sounds like he's talking about Frank in Case West and Off the Record. We did the old Frank and we kind of put them side by side with the new Frank, and they're actually really similar.
Well, we're up to our necks in zombies. Yeah, I think I appreciate the situation just fine. So is this the caller, this guy here? They've got something to do with the zombies, don't they? Not on my watch! Someone's been hurt. I need medicine. Back in the land of the living? You're one tough cookie. Can you stand?
How much do you already know? Have you called for help?
Hold your horses, babe. I'm the one asking the questions here.
Keep them busy dodging your bullets and stay out of trouble. Are you up to it?
I'm a lot better with a camera. But yeah, I'll give it a shot.
Why? Why did my people have to die to feed your fat bellies?
That doesn't excuse what you've done. But I promise, the Santa Cabeza story will be told.
I was getting a medal from the president, and when I went to go shake his hand, I tripped and kind of punched him. In the neck.
In the neck?
I tripped.
You sucker punched the president in the neck?
You just love making me look like an asshole, don't you? I love mini golf.
Wrong night to go commando, I tell you.
You're a quick one.
That's what she said.
Well, if Queen Sandra is half as inbred as she sounds, then she's my kind of lady. Good super weird zombie. Good, nice super weird zombie.
Who took out the convoy?
I have absolutely no idea. But whatever it is, It's Godzilla strong, has friends, and sports a serious hate-on for Obscurus. I'm gonna...
What was that?
My Pulitzer. Gotta go. So, what? No more mini-golf?
No. We have a 3-story mall to go through which makes up 30% of the world. Yeah, and it only makes up like 5% of the story. This next quote is funny because he contradicts himself. The interviewer asked him about the removal of the timer mechanic for the world, and here's what he had to say. The decision to remove the timer didn't have anything to do with making the game more accessible to more people. A lot of research we've done with people that have played the games in the past, we find that people don't tend to go back and try to finish things. They just power through and finish the mission. The majority of players don't go back and complete it. For that reason, we took the timer out of our main game. Do I really need to say anything else? Let's continue talking about combo weapons. We try to strike a balance between really ridiculous and stupid. It's a kind of science and cool. Well, he said tried. He didn't say they succeeded. Adding window cleaner to a dinosaur head doesn't give it flame-throwing capabilities, no matter how you try to work that into it. So yeah, they probably tried and failed, and in the end, we only get the ridiculous and stupid portion. I personally don't care that much. I said before the ridiculousness at this point isn't really a bother for me, but it is worth noting that Dead Rising 2 succeeded in that balance when it came to combo weapons. Almost every single combo weapon, in fact all the combo weapons are pretty much brand new. No one's seen them before. Seen this, 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 seen this. Why did you even make this statement? He ends his rambling about combo weapons with, "It's accurate to say that it's way more than Dead Rising 3.
Meyer.
Nichols then talks about the maniacs in the game and what they took from Dead Rising 3 feedback. Lots of feedback over in Dead Rising 3 is the kind of blatant sexuality that was in a lot of the stuff in the game, and it didn't really resonate with people. Some thought it was cheap, or people thought it was like, oh, you just put that in there to get a reaction or whatever. So we've gotten away from the sexual overtones in the game. We still have some crazy psychos in the game, but it's less about being a sexual deviant. Wow. People really didn't like Dylan, or that final fight boss. Next is another interview with Nichols, conducted by the Iris. They ask him what they think are some of the improvements compared to the previous games. A better story for one, better interaction between characters too. Performance-wise, the game looks better. I can't help but laugh at the idea that they really think they made a better story in the series. Also, the game absolutely does not look better. Even without the horrible bugs and glitches, this is still a very ugly game, and it cut as many corners as possible. Our last interviews both come from IGN. Mr. Nichols, the director, talks about the psychopaths being replaced for this title. Psychopaths have been replaced by more believable, less eccentric people that are just struggling to cope with the situation.
A fool's errand, boy! They shall not defeat 80,000 Black Friday fears!
Kill him already!
Am I supposed to be intimidated by you maniacs? Because I am a little.
You think this is about sportsmanship?
Huh? What's
Intruder in
that?
our end zone, boys! You gonna take that, you sissies? For crying out loud, do I have to do everything?
They said that death once stalked these hills. A man accused of most gruesome kills. Now his soul lives on, as does his thirst to end. His darkling presence heralding Willamette Zen.
Guess who kissed your mother under the mistletoe, Frank?
What? The next interview talks about changes Frank has gone through for this title. The studio has taken away his ogre-like hunched thinning hair and the generally creepy vibe he gave off in the prior games. What the fuck is this shit? God forbid he has a slight hunch when he walks in the first game. That wasn't even a thing in the rest of the series. What creepy vibe did he give off? He was an assertive person in the first game, sure, but creepy? Fuck you, Jose Otero. This wasn't even stated by one of the developers, just a journalist being a douchebag. Anyway, let's continue with video interviews.
So food is another part of the inventory system that we've modified. We've made it very easy to do. Tap down on the D-pad at any time and you'll be able to eat instantly. Compared to the other Dead Risings, you would have to search through your inventory or sometimes accidentally eat when you didn't want to.
Yeah, that's right.
So we separated that out.
I'll be honest, I haven't had a problem with that in Dead Rising games since getting started with the first title. I haven't accidentally eaten one of my food items in about 10 years. I'll go ahead and say it can be a tad inconvenient at times, just like other aspects of older video games. Immediate example would be the controls in titles such as Resident Evil and Silent Hill. It's just something that takes some getting used to, so what exactly is the problem? I guess the fact that new players don't want to get used to the controls. In all honesty, I got more confused with the new control scheme in certain aspects, such as cycling through weapons and changing weapon wheels, but I got used to them, I suppose. Still, if this means sacrificing the ability to throw swords and computer towers, I'll choose the old method any day of the week. What's funny is that their complaints are pretty much remedied years ago by Insomniac Games, but that's neither here nor there.
How you were able to do combinations on food, why not return to that?
It really was a hard decision for us. We were looking at everything right now, and with the more combos and the more distinctive weapons and the inventory system, to be totally honest, we just couldn't fit it on the controller and in the game. So we've simplified that because we felt the weapons were more important than the food.
I'm sorry, because you just put so much into this game? What was so backbreaking about this project? The copy-pasted safe houses, the minimally animated zombies, the gimped control scheme, taking away attacks, the short story, the lower combo weapon count? Or was removing so many features and details from the original game so tiresome that you guys couldn't be damned to include blender use? You guys took so much content away, there's no way this game was more strenuous to create than Dead Rising 3.
Meyer?
Just admit it, you didn't feel like putting it in the game.
And we really wanted to play a homage to the original game. That's why we brought back Frank, and that's why we went back to Willamette. Frank had a story that he wanted to finish here, and he didn't get to do it really in the last mall.
I understand the notion, and I appreciate what they were going for. Actually, no I don't. You need to do more than place names on things. In the end, that's what bringing back Frank and Willamette feel like. Frank isn't who he used to be, and Willamette isn't structured the same way it used to be. This is all paltry. Paltry attempts to get old fans to like this game.
And it's happening, man. I mean, the game looks better than last time. It's faster frame rate. It's better resolution. There's more zombies on the screen. We're like, wow, we should have done that last time. We just didn't know how.
Yeah, no. Like I said before, these wax caricatures don't look human, and the frame rate is just as bad as before on Xbox One. PC version has higher frame rate, but even my build that goes beyond its recommended settings that can run all other games perfectly well has chugging issues for this game's frame rate.
Well, we're big fans of the game ourselves at the studio, and so we wanted to make sure that we're honoring Dead Rising and where it comes from. Obviously now, with the generation of hardware that we've got with the Xbox, we know we can do so much more.
Right, of course, you want to honor the series by streamlining the shit out of it and stripping away freedoms the player had to have fun with the game. Sure, because sandbox games are definitely better when you can do less.
I think for us, it's kind of a celebration of the history of Dead Rising, the legacy of Dead Rising. Somebody asked me earlier today, they said, you know, there's zombies are really hot all the time, and what is it about Dead Rising? What is it? And I said, it's because there's nothing else like it.
Well, what he's saying is true, so why make it even less recognizable as a Dead Rising game? You're taking away so many things that made Dead Rising unique in the first place. The more you strip away from what made Dead Rising originally stand out from the rest of the zombie-related action games that were released prior and after, it just starts to feel like other games. It's as if these developers think combo weapons are the one and only thing that make the series stand out, and that simply isn't true. Whether there's a giant mascot head attached to the end of my gun, blowing up a bunch of enemies is still just that.
So I'll give you an example of something we've made much easier that everyone seems to like, is the combo system. So when you find the blueprint, you know, you still have to find the blueprint to make the combos, but you don't have to go to a workbench and do it. You can combo on the fly. So once I've got the ingredients for the recipe, if I find the stuff that goes in there, it says, hey, do you want a combo right now? Yeah, I would, because I don't want to have to walk over and find that to do it.
Sure, but this isn't something you invented. This is Dead Rising 3's method.
We wanted to really work on making deeper character development for the other characters in the game, and we've got a lot of really great characters in the game that we're happy to introduce people to down the road. We want the missions to not feel like fetch quests all the time, because so many products come out and you play them, it's like, how long is your game? It's like, well, if I didn't have to go fetch something and take it from point A to point B, and when I get to point B, they said, oh no, you forgot this, no, take it to this person. That's not fun. And so we've eliminated the back and forth of all this stuff.
If he's only talking about Dead Rising 3, I agree to an extent, but the side missions in the first 2 games didn't usually feel like that. Yeah, a few of them you needed a particular item, but others had some nice twists to them. And even then, it was less about fetching something for them and more like sacrificing something you have in order to gain trust of a survivor. Still, I guess it could be chalked up to subjective attitudes.
My favorite weapon is something called the Gandalf, as opposed to an unknown wizard. And what the Gandalf does is it's a combo weapon that's got a garden gnome affixed to a giant magic staff, and it shoots garden gnomes, and they laugh and scream as the garden gnome gets projected down and explodes and hits the zombies. But then when you've powered up that thing with enough of your hits, then you do the move and you bang the staff on the ground like you were saying, you shall not pass kind of thing, and all these garden gnomes come out of nowhere, and they parade off and they march and attack the zombies in front of you, and then they explode.
This is awful.
A Twitter question here from someone suspiciously named Barney Barnes. Bernie, I'm looking at you. The question is, will there be a 7-day Survivor inspired achievement? Because I hear only the best gamers have that one. Bernie has that achievement.
So what
He's
we're
very
doing,
proud of that.
we are doing something very new this time with Dead Rising. We're focusing on our survival in our 4-player online co-op. And so you can play together with 4 people, and that's when you're going to really get the achievements for surviving longer, as opposed to in the main game.
I know they're not supposed to just give a flat-out no to questions, but it would have been really funny if he simply did, and not just babble his way to talking about multiplayer.
So we have new characters, playable female characters for the first time.
Meyer.
There we go. Bernie is messaging me about
Burn.
Otis.
Are we feeling the burn right now?
Ugh.
We have a lot of directives that we've done at the studio, and one of them is get quick to the fun, right? Because we are the mac and cheese of zombie slaying games, right? We are the greasy hamburger. I'm not going to wait 45 minutes for this to cook. I want it now.
Well, no doubt that isn't completely false. Even with the first game, it allowed you to have simple fun. Sure, it was no Fallout 3 where it takes like 50 years for something fun to happen. You can just go out there and kill zombos. But he's talking like that's all there is to the games, and we know that isn't true.
So how important is going to be the like one big thing about Dead Rising is you see a lot of like people you have to go save and join your party. Are we going to see more of that in this one?
Yep, and it's better. I mean, it's not like I'm making the perfect game, right? It's better because before you'd help a survivor and they go, thanks. You just take off. It's like, well, that was worth it.
Yeah.
Now, when you help survivors, they drop loot.
Oh,
they
wow.
drop
Okay.
stuff for you, and sometimes it's amazing stuff. Sometimes they have a combo weapon in their jacket, or they have or something you really want to get. So we have a great looting system as well, and there are varying levels of NPCs you will encounter will drop better stuff.
I thought maybe he just misspoke before, but no. Says the exact same thing. I'm convinced he didn't play any of the games before this and was just told to spew this bullshit. What is he on about? The developers in previous entries always made helping survivors very rewarding by granting you heaps of bonus experience, which usually leveled up your character, and grants you new abilities or upgrades. Both Dead Rising 1 and 2 had a particular survivor grant you an extremely helpful shortcut for saving them. Rescuing Paul in the first game granted you a brand new weapon you can only acquire through him. And the second game had multiple survivors give you so much more, such as exclusive combo cards, Zombrex, and cash. Their requests and moments of rebellion also added to their character, helping to shape the world. Dead Rising 3 had a class of survivors that are as he described, but he's talking like this is a standard for the series when it wasn't that at all. Even in that game, there are survivors that reward you with exclusive combo blueprints, and you get to have that survivor as an ally. Seriously, what the hell is he talking about?
Like, I'm running low on time, and I'm like, I've got 2 survivors. Like, I got to pick one of the 2, and it's like, well, not getting a perfect run this time. All right.
Yeah.
Like,
And then people say, oh, I could just go play it again.
yeah.
People don't want to play it again to get that one other thing.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
Translation, replay value bad. Okay, it isn't that simple. I see where they're coming from, and they're right about Dead Rising 3 that it had absolutely no need for the timer because it was so laxed. But outright removing it because some people didn't like the idea of messing up a perfect run? Part of what made the timer so special in the first 2 games is that it encouraged you to learn the game from the inside out, as well as hone your skills and time management. If you think this is out of pure nostalgia, please try to see it in my point of view. Playing through a recent port of Dead Rising 1 over and over again, I was reminded why I loved that game so much, especially since I was playing it for pure recreation and not just to capture footage for another dumb video. Well, at first. I made the big mistake of trying to rescue all the survivors on my first run. It's pretty much impossible considering how random the upgrade system is. I even tried saving 8 people at once, only 3 of them actually made it to the safe room. The time factor plays a big role in the player's satisfaction. When you have a grocery list of side missions with the clock ticking and depleting those meters to yellow, then red, it feels really good to bang them out in quick succession, possibly in one go without saving. Not only that, but you get rewarded heavily with heaps of prestige points. Also, the idea of being forced to wait until certain hours before being able to continue the main campaign missions encourage you to hone up your time management skills, either by exploring the mall and slay more zombos, or look for stragglers that you're never actually informed of, which was the case for both games. Dead Rising 2 went for a more lenient approach. The time aspect can still be a problem, but it wasn't as strict if you want to do a complete run saving all survivors. Of course, they did throw in variables like saving that goddamn tiger or winning at poker against cheating bots. With all this, the timing aspect gave a different experience that was still satisfying. Dead Rising 3, however, went so lenient the timer might as well not be there. You had plenty of time to clear everything and then some more, and then even more after that. I remember clearing the game for the first time with every single side mission completed, all smart glass missions completed, all survivors rescued, and still had like 2 days left. With that said, I think they removed the timer in Dead Rising 4 because they didn't understand how to implement it properly. It just piles on more and more evidence that the developers really didn't understand what made Dead Rising 1 so special, or even what made Dead Rising 2 a good enough step forward. At this point, they might as well be making Dead Rising Warriors Orochi, or Dead Rising Defense Force. They seem to think all that's fun is mowing down zombos endlessly. And I'm sure people would argue against me saying that the game doesn't let you explore the world because of the timer. That isn't true. Every single Dead Rising game did let you do that, but most people seem to completely miss the option. When you miss your deadline on a mission and get that game over screen, there's an option that says return to game. That option lets you keep playing and playing to your heart's content until the campaign is over. Sure, you get the worst ending, but why should you care when you don't give a shit about the story and just want to go on a killing spree? I don't try to perfect every game I play, but Dead Rising is one of the games when I really try because that's how much I like it. That's how much I want to invest in it. Not everyone will be like that, but what else can I really say at this point about it? They just want to widen their net, and what can I really do to stop that?
We are putting on more zombies, more effects, higher fidelity characters everywhere we can.
Wait, what does that mean? What the hell is higher fidelity characters? How can a character be higher fidelity? I thought that's an audio term.
We've tried to simplify our combo system,
Yeah.
so you can combo on the fly now. That's a big
So
new
you don't
feature
need to
for us.
find the workbenches.
No more workbenches.
No.
We still do have our blueprints in the game, so you do need to find out how to make it before you can make it, but you can do that on the fly.
This confuses me more than ever. Why do they keep talking about it like they did it first? This was Dead Rising 3's main feature. Stop talking about it like you thought of it first. You guys weren't even involved in Dead Rising 3's production. Did you even play the game?
Y'all worked 3 hard years on this just to get to this moment to first show it off to people. Is it demoralizing a little to have your moment sort of gone a little early on you, or do you just brush it off and you don't even worry about it? Kind of what, as a creator who's worked so hard for something for so long, how does that affect you when that stuff happens?
Such an odd question. I feel like it isn't asked enough.
Games have to evolve. Right. You can't just keep serving up the same burger year after year after year. You have to put new things out for people. And I think that's what we've done with Dead Rising. We've focused on the stuff that people love. We've added some new stuff, and we've improved some stuff.
He's not wrong. Well, for the most part, I guess. But to say they improved anything, I find to be a stretch. I'll say they have made some things more convenient, which I suppose can be looked at as improvements, such as the inventory management. But using that as an example, it took away aspects from the previous games. And to say they focus on everyone's favorite things about the older games, that's true. If you literally only liked killing mass hordes of zombos, they diminished the concept of helping survivors, they reused the same skill tree bullshit from Dead Rising 3 and added dumb upgrades. The game has less combo weapons than any other title before it. The story is more linear than ever with its lack of overtime and alternate endings. I guess saying we stripped out a ton of elements to focus more on zombie slaying isn't as attractive.
We have what we call a lot of side content in the game. So we're not an open world game. We call ourselves like an open sandbox because, you know, I'm not going to get my sword and my armor and go through the field and walk for half an hour like a big RPG. I want to be able to get quickly to the fun. So I'll have missions that I'm supposed to do to drive the story forward.
Just because there's a ton of fumbling NPCs in your way doesn't mean it isn't the same shit, Joe. Sure, sometimes you can go to town on them, but more often it's better to just jog your way to the next boring side quest. Not all open world games are set in medieval times, by the way.
There's also going to be survivors that are going to be like on the top of a truck going, "Oh my God, help me," and they're waving for you. And unlike before, when you rescue a survivor, they drop loot. They give you stuff and thank you instead of just going, "Yeah, thanks for saving my life," and walking away. They don't do that anymore. So there's a real reason that you want to help these people out.
Oh my God. I can't help but laugh every time I hear him spew this bullshit. That's literally what they do. Dropping a combo weapon you can acquire in seconds or another worthless health up doesn't suddenly make your game survivors more compelling than the previous games. Quit trying to pat yourself on the back for this low effort garbage.
And we have a lot of dynamic things going on in the world as well. And what I mean by that is there are survivors that have survived the apocalypse, and then there's bad survivors, and they're just there to cause trouble. So they will fight each other or fight zombies, and then the soldiers are in the game, and they can fight the zombies or fight the survivors. So people are always fighting each other and shooting at each other. So every time you play the game, it'll feel different because we have different random events with all the survivors in the world, and they'll react differently to you. They might, "Oh, that person needs help." You go, "Do you need help?" And they start attacking you. It's like, "Oh, great, I picked a bad survivor." So lots of variety in the game, more than ever before.
That never happens in the game. In fact, that sort of happens in Dead Rising 3 a few times. You help a survivor out and it seems fine at first, but then something happens and the scripted event calls for them to defect. It isn't amazing, but kind of a cool idea that can totally be expanded upon. But the situation Joe is implying is impossible because all crazed survivors and hostile soldiers are marked with a big, fat arrow above their heads. Because players are dumb and can't tell that the game is conveying the tired idea that all bad people wear masks. Good survivors are not only maskless, they also have an indicator above them as well. We're all playing in HD, it isn't hard to see them.
Complaints people have online is the voice actor. Yep. The voice changed. Why?
So, you know what, we did a lot of research, and we wanted to make Frank a little bit more mature. Because like I said, Frank's in his 50s now. And so we did a lot of casting, and I do want to say that TJ was great. I mean, TJ, he did a great job for Frank, and we love the work that he did for us. But talking to a lot of the fans, they wanted to see where Frank was going to go, and how was he going to mature, and how was his story going to change. And so we went with someone new, and everyone that plays the game loves what Frank has become.
This is just a bit of a PSA. Most of this is probably a lie, but I don't blame them one bit. Rotolo actually came out saying there was no way Capcom could hire him at this time because of the recent strike. Therefore, the devs had no choices but to get someone else, probably before they even finished casting. Now, why they're hiding the voice actor being Ty Olsson is something I've yet to understand.
And we find that the funniest stuff comes from the accidents in the game.
Well, he's technically right.
I can't change his expression. Perfect. I'm through the bus. Oh no. Oh my God. Okay, whatever. Whoa! I don't know how I did that. To move it. Excuse me, zombies. Oh, what?
A lot of the people talk to us about Dead Rising, and they said, there's zombie movies and there's zombie games, but Dead Rising still survives, and why is that? And I said, because there's nothing like Dead Rising. There's just nothing like it.
And you ruined that. Focusing so much on zombie killing in Dead Rising 4, this might as well be a Western Dynasty Warriors or Western Earth Defense Force, which I'm sure have their audiences, but I find them incredibly tiresome after about 20 minutes. There's a point where you're not using a weapon to sweep away the enemies, you're just using a broom. Hey, Google results for Hipster Beard, why did you like Frank?
He has the best off assortment of weapons you've ever seen.
Fuck off assortment of weapons. Not sure what that means. Anyway, his assortment of weapons was regular items, some guns, and piles of small chainsaws. Unless we're talking about off the record, but Chuck has a pretty comparable assortment and Nick has had even more. In fact, Nick has the most impressive and ridiculous arsenal for the franchise. How about you, Bryce Cockring?
Why I love Frank West? He has the biggest balls I've ever seen of any game character.
Really? I mean, I guess it's pretty headstrong to fly into a rioting town just to get a story, but I think we've seen plenty of game characters do more.
Monsters. Guess after this, there'll be one less to worry about.
Frank's just an kicking, talking, bullshit mother.
Well, he certainly does kick ass, but shit-talking? Not really. Sure, he had some quips to the non-canonical game, but it wasn't really shit-talking. His mouth didn't get him into trouble, just his actions. Even in the 4th game, he only hurls a few insults. It's not really a defining trait for him in any iteration. And I'm not sure what bullshit motherfucker means. I've never heard anyone call someone a bullshit motherfucker in my life. I don't really want to point out their age, but I guess it's too late. They're clearly in their late 40s or early 50s. It's funny hearing them try to talk like this.
If you can pick it up, you can use it as a weapon.
Meyer.
Frank's mellowed with age now. He's 16
Right.
years older. He's 54. He's still Frank. But you know, his sense of humor is better. We have some amazing voice acting in the game, and you know, we think we've really captured what we really wanted Frank to be all along.
Wrong night to go commando, I tell you.
You're a quick one.
That's what she said. Well, if Queen Sandra is half as inbred as she sounds, then she's my kind of lady. Good super weird zombie. Good, nice super weird zombie.
We get away with it because it's always worked. Because Frank, the very first Dead Rising came out, and it was kind of ridiculous, and it kind of set the tone. And we've seen Dead Rising go through a different flavor or two throughout the years.
Right.
But we've come back to this because we think this is what the true essence of Dead Rising really is.
I guess that's what you guys think, or are paid to think. But that simply isn't true. The essence of Dead Rising wasn't mindlessly beating zombies endlessly. There were so many things in Dead Rising 1 and 2 that made those games special. So many concepts and other essences prevented it from getting boring after a half hour. Do I really have to say it again? Make it only about zombie slaying and you've got, well, just another one of these.
Like, who doesn't want to fight a zombie Santa Claus?
I want to fight a zombie Jesus.
Holy shit. I wonder if he still has his job. But what were the developers trying to go for?
But Frank's not here to tell his story. So he's got to trust me to do it. Whether he wanted it that way or not.
Like I said, we're going back to our roots.
Oh, I'm sorry, what was that?
Well, this is the 10th anniversary of Dead Rising, so we're going back to our roots. We're going back to our roots.
Alright, hang on. One more time?
And we're also going back to the roots. So going back to the roots. So going back to the roots. We're going back to our roots.
Back to its roots. Really?
And we still maintain what was really core to Dead Rising. I think fans are going to love it.
Dead Rising 4 is supposed to go back to the series' roots, according to the developers. Herein lies the problem. They're implying Dead Rising 3 strayed away from the roots, which would be no argument. So the notion of bringing the series back to its roots should be applicable to Dead Rising 4 as a perspective for how the team wants to develop the game. After all, many fans of the series were very disgruntled with how Dead Rising 3 turned out. The gray, gloomy environment, the camera having this awful bobbing, shoehorn bullshit like sprinting, the sloppy story, the boring combo weapons, forgettable music, lame bosses, and hand-holding garbage like weapon lockers. I mean, is there really any mystery why fans of the original game were disappointed by Dead Rising 3? It's a great idea to look back at the original and start off fresh. Real quick, let me iterate what made Dead Rising so special. Think of this as a micro-retrospective. What made the first game stand out as much as it did? Was it slaying zombos with whatever you can get your hands on? No. Well, not entirely. Don't get me wrong, it was definitely part of the charm. It's funny smashing plants over their heads, knocking them down with bowling balls, grinding them up with a lawnmower. Dumb fun. Like I've said before, the brilliance behind this game's design didn't stop the players from having simple fun with it. What was that brilliance though? There was, of course, the aspects that made it a non-traditional survival horror game. Item management, vague health indicator, the hordes of zombies constantly tapping into the human instinct classified as fight or flight decision making, and of course the creepy atmosphere sprinkled across the campaign. Speaking of which, those moments of tension and creepiness were just that much more special in an environment that looks so normal, colorful, bright. The story and hordes of zombies complemented this greatly. It wasn't a spooky mansion in the middle of a stormy night. It wasn't an abandoned town covered in fog. It was a shopping mall. And we can't forget the centerpiece of the game, the bosses dubbed psychopaths. They were a reflection to how this outbreak affected all different kinds of people. While the survivors you would save and escort provide perspective on this outbreak in either silly or dark ways, the psychopaths showed you what happens to people that experience a mental breakdown from the event. While the gameplay itself can be pretty ridiculous, the overall world felt pretty grounded and kind of realistic. Small reminders that in the game's world, Willamette Parkview Mall was once inhabited and maintained by people. This was once a place of goods and services, now completely deserted due to the zombie outbreak. All of this helped immersing you into the world. The story itself wasn't groundbreaking, but at least it wasn't a convoluted mess or simplified fart like other horror games then and now. It was easy to follow and impactful to the player, especially compared to older works like Resident Evil. This could be due to Dead Rising not drowning in optional memos, making the story overall simpler without losing its narrative. One more major core concept, the game's Groundhog Day mechanic. At the time, this really helped Dead Rising stand out. To put it into perspective, what happened when you first played any renowned classic like Super Mario Bros. Or Contra? Maybe you beat a few stages, but you'll most likely died early into the game. Next attempt, you know the game a little more, you play the game better, and you get farther, because now you're more familiarized with the upcoming obstacles, you understand the game more. On pretty much everyone's first run in Dead Rising, you'll be learning the game and making some progress, but either fail a main mission or simply die. The game gives you the option to save your progress and start over. You'll start from the beginning of the campaign, but Frank will start with all the gained abilities and upgrades you earned in your last run. So just like how you know better and will play better, so will Frank. There's a connection there where you can put yours and character's experience to the test. Something about that is just so captivating and compelling. It's also worth mentioning the timing aspect. Some people didn't like it because it really constricted you at times when you want to complete side objectives. It is absolutely possible to complete every single side objective in the original game, just very challenging. You won't be able to do so in your first, second, or maybe even third run. But if you start to memorize the map as well as begin to understand the timer and survivor placements and avoid making mistakes, you can definitely get it done. When you conquer the clock and get that sweet Saint achievement, I have to say it's incredibly satisfying. Time management becomes part of the game, another obstacle to defeat. There's also the zombies to take into consideration, more than some might realize. They let you have all kinds of fun with them. You didn't have to just split them open with machetes. You can carry them around, toss them into other zombies, give them hats, throw oil in front of them to make them slip and fall, bunch them together with hunks of meat. It was all really silly, and some of these elements can be used strategically. Along with this was the amazing level of detail, especially for an early 7th generation game. You can tell with some of the smallest instances that they really put in a lot of time and effort into things that might be overlooked by many. While this is the case, those who noticed surely appreciated their attention to detail. Lastly, there was the camera. It wasn't strictly third person, giving you a pretty good view of the surrounding environment. Similar to the camera in the original Silent Hill games, when it wasn't in a fixed position, it made you feel so small in a huge overcrowded world. So these concepts and mechanics are what made Dead Rising so special. But what about Dead Rising 2? Was it a good follow-up? Well, it lost a lot of the charm and bits of detail, and I didn't like the camera angle this time around. Still, it provided some neat mechanics. One that can't go without mentioning, weapon combinations. All sorts of duct tape covered killing machines created through regular items. It was a nice way to evolve the combat, and I especially like how their designs range from kind of practical to complete bonkers. But the game incentivized you so strongly to use them, it was pretty much worthless to bother with normal items. Especially considering combo weapons as destructive as the Defiler and knife gloves can be produced en masse right outside of your safe house. Meanwhile, nearly all the normal items hit for peanuts, and guns are gimped beyond practical use. In my opinion, the concept was not well implemented. I think making the weapon combos harder to attain and create would have made the uses a lot more sparing, thus the combo weapons would be seen as satisfying aids rather than a feature you can simply abuse to breeze through the game. It's still a concept that's enjoyable nonetheless, so I definitely welcome it. They also did their best to maintain what made the bosses so special in this world. Now different perspectives we didn't see in the first game, such as a crazed activist, motocross athlete obsessed with his career, and your typical Atlas fan.
I knew I wouldn't die, Virgin!
Dead Rising 2 also provided 2-player campaign co-op, something fans were clamoring for since the release of the first title. Besides the prologue, you can play all the missions and experience the entirety of the game and its world from beginning to end with another player. This was an instant seller for many players and made the game so much more fun to experience. If I were to be stubborn about Dead Rising 2, I would say it just made it over the bar. But I can't deny that when the game first launched, I was immediately hooked and enjoyed what it had to offer. And that's about it. Oh, what about Dead Rising 3? I don't know, vehicle combos, I guess. I think most, if not all of you would agree that these core concepts are what made Dead Rising. These are the roots, correct? Seeing as how Dead Rising 3 strayed away from nearly everything that made Dead Rising so great, it would make sense to make Dead Rising 4 in order to bring back these core concepts from the first game, bring back that attention to detail, and of course, keeping the weapon combinations and online campaign co-op from Dead Rising 2. I mean, if you're going to keep saying you're going back to the roots, right? I think I know what they meant by going back to the roots. They ripped out the fucking tree. But seriously, I'm sure they thought saying shit like, we're going back to the roots, will make fans of early games in a franchise ears perk up with interest. But these days, all it does is make us grow suspicious and reconsider trust in the developer. I've been burned by this line enough times, and seeing Dead Rising 4 turn out the way it did was just disingenuous. And this is why I'm constantly comparing it to the old games, and especially the first title. This is why people are complaining non-stop. This is why people are constantly comparing it to the first game, and this is why they don't like it. We're not being stubborn assholes who just want a clone of Dead Rising 1, we were just taking what you said at face value. Keep saying you're going back to the roots? You're going to keep saying you're going to improve upon what was already established and cherished? We're going to check. We're going to look at everything with a microscope. What you and a lot of people are mistaking for entitlement is just passion. You know what that is, right? Because I really can't see it with Dead Rising 4. There's less weapons, you're given less freedom, less means of attacking, the game looks ugly as shit most of the time, it doesn't run properly, the story is forgettable, and it's boring. You keep saying you're making the game better than ever, that you're improving upon everything, that the old games were so bad, and you just don't give a shit. I'm sorry, but from my experience in this game, it just seems like you don't give a shit. I can't believe I'm saying this, but Dead Rising 3 honestly feels more like a Dead Rising game than this. At least that game lets me throw fucking swords. If by some sort of miracle a developer from Capcom Vancouver is watching this, please heed my words. Don't ever say you're going back to the roots ever again. Whether or not Dead Rising 4 sold well, I can tell you that all this did was harm your reputation and potential sales. I think at this point, fucking with your money is all we can do in order to get through to you. I know you guys are already prepped beforehand on what to say and not to say during interviews. How about you avoid this like the new strain of zombie virus you made up? You want to change the formula? Fine. You want to simplify fucking everything? Go ahead. I'll try to adapt, and if I don't like it, I'll just quit playing. Just stop trying to tell fans of the original that this will satisfy them by going back to the roots. Say things like, we need to change the formula in order to adapt and attract people. We'll always do our best to appeal to old fans, but we hope you come along with us to embrace the series evolving its structure. Maybe not the most influential words, but that's just off the top of my head. And you can bet your ass it'll hurt your reputation less than straight up lying to fans of the older games.
And I say, the truth is better than fiction.
Final thoughts. The few concepts I found enjoyable about this game is just a molehill when compared to the mountain of poor design and misdirection this game has for me. If they ever do make another iteration of Dead Rising, all I can hope for is that it doesn't end up like this again. To anyone left watching that doesn't like what I have to say or disagrees with my overall feelings for Dead Rising 4, I hope you at least understand where I'm coming from. I don't want to be a stubborn, jaded asshole who just dislikes the game because it's different and new. I like a lot of modern games and still think the industry has potential. I just did not find this experience very enjoyable. If you played through Dead Rising 4 and had fun, I'm glad for you. I'm happy that people were able to appreciate the game and what the developers are going for. I'm also hoping that these people just didn't happen to run into a ridiculous amount of glitches like I did. The idea of players saying a game that's this unfinished is acceptable just appalls me. I have no doubt in my mind that this game was rushed to meet its holiday launch. As for the developers, I've got one last bit to say. If it sold well, I think it's fair to say that you got everyone's attention. If it sold better than Dead Rising 3, a game that was granted the crutch of being a launch title, then you did something right, I suppose. Not sure what, but something. If that's the case, you have more freedom and right to really listen to fans that were not pleased with Dead Rising 4. Look past these assholes who write blowhard open letters on Reddit that begin with name-calling, and try to seek out the most constructive criticism that this game received. I know it isn't good marketing to admit to mistakes so early of this game's release, but I really hope you put a lot of the displeased fans into consideration for the inevitable production of Dead Rising 5. And if the game did not meet sales expectations, just move on and try a different approach. Take in the criticism you receive to help flesh out a new title. That is, if Capcom doesn't decide to liquidate you all. Regardless of my displeasure with Dead Rising 4, I'm happy to see this genre start to have a place in the video game industry again. With The Last of Us receiving a sequel on PlayStation 4, a potential installment to The Evil Within after the first game's success under Bethesda's publishing, and Resident Evil 7 getting deserved praise for taking a more grounded approach that focused on atmosphere and intense environment, it's an exciting time to be a fan of the action horror genre. With that said, I hope Dead Rising will be able to provide ample quality to this genre in the future. There's a few ways to ensure that it can do just that. One of the more malicious methods I can think of is to take the franchise away from Capcom Vancouver, but that's neither here nor there. I don't wish harm upon developers, and I don't want to see a franchise I adored so much end like this. If there's ever a new project, I'll do my best to be optimistic.